And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Start off the marine forecast section here with the forecast of the southeast coast. Gale warnings tomorrow for the south coast, east winds 30 to 35 knots, otherwise east at 25 to 30 for the central coast, and northeast 25 to 30 for the north coast. Lynn Canal north at 25, north at 30 for Stevens Passage, and southeast winds 25 knots with 8-foot seas for Clarence Strait. And then for Thursday, south coast, southeast winds 30 to 35 knots, seas 15 feet. East winds 25 to 30 knots on the central coast, and east winds 30 to 40 knots, so seas up to 20 feet for the north coast. Lynn Canal looking at a north wind at 20 knots with a 4-foot sea height. North 25 for Stevens Passage, and southeast winds 30 knots for Clarence Strait. Prince William Sound, Wednesday, northeast at 15, east-northeast 20 knots for the North Gulf Coast with seas around 10 feet. North at 30 knots with 8-foot seas for the Barren Islands, and northwest winds 25 knots for Kamishak Bay. Cook Inlet, north winds 15 to 20 knots. And for Thursday for Cook Inlet, north to northeast winds 15 to 20 knots. Gale warnings for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay. Northwest winds there at 35 to 40 knots. Eastern North Gulf Coast, east winds 30 to 35 knots, so seas up to 18 feet. Northeast wind at 20 knots with 4-foot seas for Prince William Sound. The western North Gulf Coast, northeast winds 25 knots, seas 16 feet. Kodiak Island, north to northwest winds tomorrow at 20 to 30 knots. For the Alaska Peninsula, north to northeasterlies 20 to 25 knots. And for Bristol Bay, winds will be out of the north at 20 knots. And then for the day Thursday, Kodiak Island, northwest winds 30 to 35 knots. And about the same for the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay, all looking at northwest winds at 30 to 35 knots with seas running 4 to 11 feet. And for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, we've got north to northeast winds at 20 to 25 knots, Adak and Atka north at 25, and the western Aleutians west-northwest winds 20 to 30 knots. For the day Thursday, for the western Aleutians, west-northwest winds at 20 to 25 knots, and the central areas from Adak to Atka Island, southwest wind at 20 knots, and west-northwest winds for the Fox Islands at 15 to 25 knots. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, north winds 20 to 25 knots there, strongest south of Nunivak Island, northeast at 25 for the Pribilofs, northeast at 15 St. Matthew Island, Norton Sound north at 15, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta coast, north winds 20 knots. And for the day Thursday, northwest winds 30 knots here for the Kuskokwim Delta coast. Light variable winds for the Pribilofs at 10 knots, seas 5 feet, southeast at 20 with 5-foot seas for St. Matthew Island. And for the Yukon Delta coast and Norton Sound, winds will be north at 20 knots with a 5-foot sea height. St. Lawrence Island, north winds 25 knots. And on up to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, east winds 10 to 20 knots with 3 to 4-foot seas. South at 10 for the central coast, north at 10 for the western Arctic coast. And for the Chukchi Sea, north winds 15 to 20 knots with seas 3 to 4 feet. And for Thursday for the Chukchi Sea, north winds 15 to 20 knots with seas at 4 to 5 feet. North at 15 for the western Arctic coast, northeast winds 20 knots for the central coast. And now gale warnings there for the far eastern part of the eastern Beaufort Sea coast are southeast winds at 35 knots with seas at 6 feet.